Good evening and welcome back, Poetry Lovers. It is I, ZM Wise, and here I am with another interview just for you. We have Mr. Tyler Pufpaff. He is author of A Quarter Life. Tyler's work has appeared or is forthcoming in Torrid Literature Journal, Karate, Havik, Perhappened, Emerge Literary Journal, and has been anthologized in Poetry Diversified 2019. When he's not reading or writing, he can be found watching mob dramas like The Godfather. Tyler, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for your interest and for taking the time to read my chapbook.
Of course, yes. I should tell you all out there that I had the pleasure of receiving and reviewing Tyler's book, A Quarter Life. It was, as I was telling him before, one of the most satisfying reads of the year for me. And the first question definitely pertains to that. Can you tell me a little bit about the genesis of A Quarter Life for those who may not be familiar with it?
Well, A Quarter Life kind of deals on a darker part of my life, and it's certainly not recent, but it's something I've been able to talk about as, I guess as I've embraced this part of my life. It's on my experience with mental illness. There are suggested suicide attempts within the chapbook. It's very dark, and it doesn't have a happy ending, if that's what anyone's looking for.
Well, I mean, there are plenty of times life may not contain that, and especially on the subject of mental health, it isn't always obviously it isn't always sunshine and rainbows. We can only do so much. My favorite piece within the book, it's in front of me right now. It's called Lines, and I also quote it at the end of my review. These especially these last two stanzas. I found myself drawing lines on tombstones, insensate when I related myself to a line incorrectly drawn. Now in another reality, looking down at myself with the lines drawn on my arms, I saw something real. Now, looking back at this piece, and it's a guilty pleasure of mine, I just love the ambiguity in so many pieces. Now, you can tell sort of towards the end what these lines could be, but then pertaining to darkness in general, it could be something else completely abysmal as well. So could you walk us through the making of this piece and what stands out to you as an author?
Sure. Gosh, a lot of these pieces, it seems so long ago when really I was just laboring over the book in general 4 or 5 months ago. I vividly recall I was so elated with this piece. Backstory, I'd recently returned to school. So at the time I was working a part-time job, and my favorite stanza is in the middle on the left page there, that someone had asked me why my hair was so gray at 25, and I had told them I'm just dying quicker than everyone else, and she didn't like that, and it was just a humorous thing for me, but I'd kind of learned I had to keep those thoughts to myself when I was working around her. And I think from there, I kind of just built the piece around that stanza. That interaction really stood out to me. And I think I just imbued some of my feelings around this and created a poem, an event that didn't actually happen. I preface at the beginning of the book that the poems are a character similar, but sometimes identical to myself. So some of them are a bit reaching, when others are certainly more searing and honest.
Of course. No, I really appreciate that input. That I was going to say that stanza definitely stood out to me as well. The syllables practically jumped out at me like a 3D film, and I honestly I could relate to that as well. And especially with the response, she didn't like that. Certain people just don't.
Sure.
They either don't like hearing the truth, or they just unfortunately they're just not in the mood for certain responses, like they might not even expect it, and
Yeah, I don't think it was an expected response, and I'm not sure I expected that to come out of myself either. But
of course,
I
no,
had
of course. I mean, unfortunately, there those who do not struggle, they are outsiders, and they can only do so much for us, and they definitely watch us struggle even more if not addressed first. Another favorite piece of mine was another that I mentioned in my review, and aptly titled "Insta Poetry." There is no cure for the wickedness of man. do you wanna do you wanna give us some insight as far as that? What prompted that?
um honestly, it's not something I wrote about and included in this chapbook, but it was just one line that I had probably had in a Google Doc for a year or so, and any attempts to expand on this, to maybe have that one line be the title of a poem, um, none of the attempts felt apt to really express what I wanted to express. And there are certainly lots of things that I wish I had said in this chapbook that I don't know if I'll ever be able to say. And so this one line, um, I guess I felt to supplement what wasn't said, I, I took it in this form that I recognized as insta poetry, usually accompanied with an image or arranged in such a way, a short lyric like on Instagram. Um,
Mm-hmm. Do you ever find that happens often, where you have this certain line that repeats over and over? You think you'd want to include it in a much lengthier piece, or as you said, have it be the title, but nothing else sticks, and you just it's just right where it is. Like, do you ever, like, besides that piece, of course?
Sometimes I wonder if, like, as a writer, we try too hard to fashion it into something more. And a lot of times I do try and take all the scraps and compile them together and see if there's some cohesion and if they can together, express whatever it may be. But I suppose with this line, I felt after enough attempts, it was going to be enough on its own.
Yeah, I find that the same thing happens with certain untitled pieces. If I feel that if if I have to work myself to the bone to figure out a title, maybe it's just better off untitled. Sometimes what works is, of course, you might borrow a line from the piece and then attribute that to the title. But yeah, other than that, sometimes untitled pieces turn out to be some of the best.
Yeah, certainly. And Untitled itself is a great addition to the piece sometimes, that the
Hmm.
title is in fact untitled.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I agree. There's something. I mean, it's not just the element of mystery, but just something beyond that. It offers. It's, to me anyway. It's sort of like a multiverse. You know.
Yeah,
It's like a
it has
multiverse
an
thing.
extra layer to it.
Hmm. Exactly. So, sort of galloping over to your brainchild, Variant Lit. What prompted you to create that?
Um, well, when I had returned to school, and I'm in my senior year, I'd quit my job and a new job search did did not work out well. I had decided I'd go back to get a bachelor's, and so that came with a lot of extra time on my hands while the coursework wasn't very challenging. And I just, I'd kind of always entertained the idea of starting a literature journal.
Hmm.
And so I had started one, and then it was a lot of work. So I had reached out to just some campus resources, people that could connect me to other students that would be interested in helping me. Needed people to help read submissions, just to help ground the idea. Needed the foundation, and I had really just birthed it. Um, so as a business student, although I'm now an English student, I had connected with our entrepreneurship center and got myself involved in a program which came with some seed money, and we worked on creating something that could support authors and artists, um, and I could have it accompany the journal at the same time. And what we pursued at first was something more similar to Wattpad. I don't know if you're familiar with the platform.
Yes, yes.
Right. Yeah. So just like an online magazine, but a bit more bigger, an online literature community. And we had sunk a good bit of our money into website development that is hidden on Variant, but they were more akin to some kind of social features where people could share their stories, comment, rate them, connect, friend other people, etc. Um, until we had realized we were way in over our head and would need way more money than was allotted. So with the remainder, we had initially ruled out a press model, but then we went back to it after connecting with the community in North Carolina, where I'm living. And after some more feedback from some of the local and independent presses, we decided that was going to be the more realistic avenue if we wanted to do something bigger to support authors and artists than just a literature journal. And granted, this came all with the push of on the Entrepreneurship Center, which is focused on creating a business plan and, you know, something of that sort. Um, I don't know. Was that clear? Were
Oh,
you
yes.
following, or did I
Oh,
end up
oh, no, no,
rambling
no,
too
no.
much there?
Crystal, Crystal.
Okay, yeah. So it kind of snowballed there. It wasn't the literature journal was the start, and then the press, really, the press side just kind of started and took off maybe last quarter of this year as a pivot from the Wattpad ambition. And I'm glad we did. It's been really great to read manuscripts and connect with authors and talk to them and work with them. You really share their excitement as you're both pursuing something you both heavily believe in.
Oh, for sure. No, being involved in an independent press myself, it's a genuine pleasure, especially when you can sense their relation, that their manifestation is about to come to life, and yeah, of course, the two of you are working together. It's not as one-sided as other
Oh
companies
yeah,
might
it's a
be.
collaboration.
Completely. What's been the highlight of Variant Lit for you
Um,
as a whole?
Probably making new friends. It's just been I guess, a talking point, but also something I and others can gather around to, just connect over things we love, you know, literature.
Of course, of course. That's what we were here for.
Yeah.
Um, so a more slightly personal question: if you encountered a newcomer in the arts who's just coming to terms slash struggling with their own mental health, what sort of advice would you give to them firsthand?
In relation to their mental health or to their writing?
Both, actually, or perhaps how one could utilize one of the other to the other.
Well, I'm sure it's one of those things that depends and there's variations. We all go through things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, when I first encountered poetry, it was 3 a.m. on the floor of my grandparents' guest bedroom where I'd been staying after a move away from Texas. And, I had coworkers buy me alcohol and just going through my own things. And I wrote. I think at that time, I just needed someone to talk to. And before I'd even sent work out, and I don't even know where I got the idea from, I was just writing all these things. I had no one to share them with. So if there was a way for someone to reach out, or a community or some resource, no one should be alone.
Of course, of
Mm.
course.
I guess I don't have a clear answer there.
No, 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 no. It's
But
quite all right.
I
It's quite all
guess
right.
reaching out even when it's a struggle, or there's no energy to, or it seems purposeless. Um, yeah, I don't know. You
Yep.
just got to do it. Just got to try. You're not alone.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing advice. It's sort of reminds me of what one of my favorite vocalists said about his bandmate who passed due to suicide, and he said if you have the feeling that you don't want to exist tomorrow, talk to someone, anyone.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, I know it varies, but still, those are definitely sage words. So now we've come to the portion where our fellow author will share 2 to 3 pieces with us.
Okay. I've always, I've never done my own reading of my own work, although I have signed up to do so next month. I've always kind of wanted to read The Perfect Performance. It's the opening poem to this work, and
Yes.
all the feedback. I've gotten some varied feedback about who the poem is addressing, and perhaps I'll leave it ambiguous since the feedback's always been so mixed. Um, but I will read this. This is called The Perfect Performance. Once the victim, I now must play the perpetrator, sliding by with a lifetime of crime, to keep from being all that she is, to keep it all together, whatever's left. All for the sake of breaking the pattern, I do a tedious task that lacks heartfelt intent, but who could forsake, disown, and cast off another like that? Not I. And so we are opposites, as night is to day. And it makes me feel no better doing the right thing, because I will always remember how her words cut so sharp every evening just after 4. The broken promises that left her word less than a Vietnamese dong. The burnt bridges, billowing in smoke, choking me everywhere I went. And now that those flames are long gone, my days of dodging mortars and ever-losing games of Minesweeper are over, I walk back to her. It is not the smoke that bothers me now. It is the ashen rubble of her errors that have stained my feet, the lingering ambers, wandering for something else to ignite. But I spit them out in hatred, so that I may try to forgive her. But I just keep spitting.
I love that as an opening piece. Like just not even giving the reader a chance to breathe. You were just diving straight into the field like that. I think that's amazing.
It's a strong piece. It's actually as the first poem I've ever gotten published in Toward Literature Journal back in 2014 or 15. I think if they hadn't picked up this poem, I might not have kept submitting.
Mm.
It was a time when I just needed to be heard, and yeah, they picked up 2 other pieces in that submission that came in later issues.
Oh yeah, Tor's a great journal. I love them.
Oh yeah, I love the mag.
Definitely.
I saw you had your own Toward publication.
That I did. Little plug for Tord. Thank you from the both of us.
Thank you. Gosh, I really like this poem "Haircut." This was just recently published in Havoc's their spring issue, which is huge. It's 200 pages. It's probably bigger than an 8 by 12. It's really dense, and it's more than just literature. It's art. It's their Havoc is the Las Positas College of Journal and Arts. They're in California. Anyways, it was great to receive a contributor copy, and when I wrote this poem, I had modeled it after a Bukowski poem that I really liked in the format. And the poem that I was emulating, in a sense, Bukowski repeats this line at the beginning of every stanza, which I had done. And the poem's called Haircut. I get my hair cut just so I have someone to talk to. But I don't really want to talk to you. I want to be understood, to not have to say anything. I get my hair cut just so I have someone to talk to. I look around the room, waiting for anyone that sees me. I'll leave if they notice. I get my hair cut just so I have someone to talk to. but they just want to do the works. Everyone is fake happy. I get my hair cut, just so I have someone to talk to, but they offer to put gel in my hair instead and shave my sideburns. I can cry if I pay for shampoo. I go out sometimes, nursing a weakened subconscious. I say sun, air, people, smiles will make you feel better. Let the good reverberate within you, make it last. I tuck myself away, no longer in pain, but equal to it. The hairdresser thinking the tip meant I was satisfied with the haircut, but I couldn't care less about my hair.
This is definitely it's definitely one of my favorite pieces too. I'm not just saying that either. It really this is for me this is the epitome of being caught in a loop and or just being, if anything, being cornered in this just in this oubliette that you just can't seem to climb out of. And and besides, literally not having anyone to talk to, it's, I mean, if you're left to your own devices, it's, yeah, I truly like this piece.
I don't know. I kind of use my hairdressers that way. And the great thing about it is if you say too much, you can just get another one. Just go to another Great Clips.
That's right. This is true.
It's a sad poem. A lot of these are sad poems. Since I wrote this, I found myself, well, I didn't write much after I wrote it, but I feel like I've kind of had a departure to this writing style, and maybe that's just natural because I don't want to write these feelings anymore. I felt like I'd kind of exercised a part of myself in the process of writing the poems. I feel like I had a really narrow focus, and it was, this somber aesthetic. And now that it's out of me, the world's kind of passing through me a little differently, and I find myself kind of falling in love with a lot of things that maybe I'd not noticed before. I don't know what's going to come of these poems I'm writing. I've had a few picked up recently, and I have this one poem out that I'll share, and I'm pretty fond of. It is also out in the trenches that I'm very excited for someone to take it. This one's called Breakfast After Sex. Much different than any of the poems in A Quarter Life. But I'll read this one. They're all a bit romantic or relationshipy.
Okay.
Breakfast After Sex. Waffles dressed up from the orange sap that eschews the bark of a maple tree in spring. This is the period when the deciduous walnut sprinkles the plates of Saturday mornings. Why do these breakfasts only come in seasons? Too short to grow old, a yearly recursion. Why do we inhale the plate, taking it for granted? Why does it feel like I'm dating again?
Snap, snap, snap.
It's just a small poem. A lot of them kind of are. Not all of them are like this. I had one that was just picked up by Per Happened, where I drive to Texas a couple times a year. I have family there, and in that poem, it was just kind of about me and the world in general.
I see.
Mm.
I see. It's really interesting what you said about the making of your last tome and then sort of evolving into another set of work. I really definitely identify with that, especially with pieces pertaining to mental health and also confessional pieces as well. It really is a genuine cleansing. And once it's immortalized on parchment, we can at least move forward enough to perhaps see the silver lining and perhaps maybe evolve to a different style, a different subject. It's anything's possible in it, but it's a cathartic exercise.
It is. Yeah, there's some magic to it. It's here, it's in front of me, it's on these pages. It's still me. There's just a part of me. I feel like I've shrunk or reduced it, and I've put it into this book form, and it no longer plagues me physically.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's in the ink.
Of course. No, of course. Um, well, thank you very, very much for sharing those pieces. Definitely means a lot. And again, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me here in this interview. I will
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
definitely. I will be including the Variant Lit website, your your Twitter page, and all your Twitter handle rather, and also the link to A Quarter Life. Everybody, be on the lookout. All of this will be in the video description. If you like what you've seen, well, heard tonight, please subscribe to my channel and follow Tyler on Twitter. And definitely submit to Variant Lit. You will not be sorry. Thank you very much. Poetry lives. Long live the arts.
Thank you for your time.